get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have David Rothstein, CEO and founder of Newsmatics. You can check him out at newsmatics.com. David, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. Since this is part of the SaaS series, actually, they consider themselves an AI-powered DaaS company, which he'll go over more. Some past episodes, I had one of the co-founders of Zapier, Wade Foster. That was a really interesting interview. One of the co-founders of Pipedrive. I think David and I had them. They were less than 10,000 customers. I think they're over 100,000 now. And the founder of JotForm and how that started. I forgot. They, tens of millions of users, and it was just interesting to hear the journey from scratch. So check out more at InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise25. At Rise25, we help businesses connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. We do that in a few ways. One, we're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution and production behind the scenes. Number two, we're an easy button for a company's gifting. So we make gifting and staying top of mind. It could be for clients, partners, prospects, even staff from a culture perspective. Just give us a list of addresses and we'll do everything else, right? So it's not like, David, we send one gift. It's think a gift every 4 months for 5 years to our most important relationships. So for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways on how I can give to my best relationships. And I found no better way over the past 15 years to profile the people and companies I admire on my podcast and send them sweet treats in the mail. So you can check out rise25.com or email support@rise25.com if you have questions. I am really excited to introduce David Rothstein. He's the founder and CEO of Newsmatics. It's a Washington, D.C. based news technology company dedicated to transforming how people access, analyze, and understand news. As I was saying before, they're an AI-powered DaaS company, which David will go over more, transforming global news into that structured, scalable intelligence. And really, Newsmatics, they're over 30, I don't want to age you or the company, David, but over 30 years old at this point. The company has developed industry-leading platforms, and you've probably heard of some of them, including the press release distribution service, EIN Presswire, which is a global network of niche publications, Perspectify, which is a tool designed to help news consumers identify media bias and credibility. And really, they use advanced data and media technologies to combat misinformation, right? Because there's none of that on the internet, right? Increase transparency, empower organizations. You could also, there's another site, Affinity Group Publishing, which we'll talk about as well. But David, thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to pull up your site in a second, but just talk about Newsmatics and what you do.
Well, we're it's true. We just finished our 30th year, and we go way back to the early days of the internet, publishing, putting together some of the first websites around back in the mid 1990s, and we started some of the earlier publications from Central Europe Online, where we started in Prague, though we're an American company. But now we have 70 people. We have people in the US, in Europe, in Asia, and South America. And we're one of the world's leading news indexers. So we're scanning and indexing thousands of news sites. And we're sitting on a lot of news data that we add a lot of other meta information to. And over the years, we've launched a variety of products around that. One, our flagship EIN Presswire. It's one of the leading Presswire services now. The last 12 months, we've issued through us about 175,000 press releases. So it's a global service. We're positioned as an easy to use, pay as you go middle market Presswire service, not for publicly traded companies, but for typical small and mid-sized businesses. And
Yeah, if you're looking
so,
at if you're listening to the audio, there's a video version. We're on the site here, and you can see there's a personal injury, there's Shriner's Children's, there's,
mhm,
a bunch of different type of business, hotel reservation software,
mhm.
types of business using your platform.
Yeah, and we take that content, and we're a Google News publisher. We also feed the press releases out onto say Nexstar sites, CBS, ABC, Fox News affiliate sites, on into AP, and now most recently onto USA Today publications. USA Today is rebranded from Gannett to USA Today Co. And so we're kind of a one-stop stop for marketing communicators to get a wide distribution for their marketing communications. And these days, a lot of that is getting ingested into the large language models, getting into ChatGPT, getting into Claude and so forth. So we're a gateway content provider for ingesting of. So we're perfectly lined up now for the AI era with all this content.
100%. I want to go back and we'll explore more on EIN Presswire. Here we are, and you could see all the different distribution points, and it makes perfect sense. It's like, okay, send this out, we'll distribute to all these platforms,
Mhm.
and it's great from like discoverability from an SEO and also now from an AI perspective as
Yes.
well.
Mhm.
Talk about the original idea. What was the original idea behind EIN Presswire, Newsmatics,
Mhm.
and the company when it first started?
Well, when we first started, we were in Prague in the 1995, and my wife and I were interested in doing something other than just working in typical offices after college. So we did a number of things, but finally we ended up reading an article in the New York Times about how young Americans were finding their way to Eastern Europe, specifically Prague is a beautiful city, and it was. So we read an article about how you could buy beer for 10 cents, get a meal for $1, and get a beautiful hillside apartment with a terrace for $250. So we were like, okay. So we sold our car, rented our condo, and packed up 2 dogs and 3 boxes, and we went to Prague, really with absolutely no idea of what we were going to do there. And but it was an interesting melting pot of lots of ideas and opportunities. And we ended up meeting some people that had a data company, and that led to putting some data related to the Czech Republic onto CompuServe. And so then
I
that
had a
led,
cs.com email. My first
okay,
email was, yeah.
okay. And so, and that led to, then early browsers were showing up in Mosaic. And so that led to building a few web pages. And we realized that you could actually put this content onto a web page and anybody could see it all over the world. So we took that idea and started a site called Central Europe Online. So we just started aggregating. We actually had a newsroom in Prague and had journalists and other writers, sort of a traditional newspaper online, but it's hard to run a newspaper and make any money doing it. So we started, and things were evolving. So we ended up moving into streamed audio and video
I mean, this is
online,
really early on.
really early
I
stuff.
mean, when you say streaming audio, that seems normal, but like
Yeah,
then, I mean, to do that was,
it
I mean,
it was inventing as you go along with people who have never done anything before like it. And in a way it's the same as what's happening now. So now what we're doing is we're building off of AI models that can help us manage large data sets. So along this continuum, it's sort of been an exploration and at every single stage of retooling, repositioning, and flowing with an ever-changing tech landscape. So that the early days were very different than today, other than the same innovation, the same waking up every day and saying what's happening, what tools are available, how do you change it, and so forth are happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, for you especially, David, in your company, it's like information overload. I mean, you're aggregating all this information.
Mhm,
So I'd love to talk through the pivot point. So it sounds like, okay, initially you had this newsroom, right?
mhm,
And okay, we need to make money. Then you said you went to streaming audio and
mhm,
video. What were some of the, maybe take
uh-huh.
me, we can go up to the present
Right.
day, some of the pivot points were these different services, kind of how they
Yeah.
came about.
Yeah. Well, the pivot points are market driven in the sense that when we started, it was friends and family money and credit cards. And then it was advertising based. And we found that we could actually generate enough money to run the business with advertising. And then the dot-com bust happened, and there was no
Where
more
were
money.
people advertising? Like when you were taking advertising,
Yeah,
how did
in
that
fact,
work?
it was actually easier because it's very focused, and we weren't competing with Google. So essentially, the click model wasn't there yet, and then Google kind of gobbled up a lot of the revenue from small publishers, and we shifted over to paid subscription model. So we realized that, well, if advertising can't do it and people were coming in and we're offering like a software as a service, then we would just put a paywall up. So we ended up putting up one of the first paywalls, and we got, that was even a challenge, actually charging people online for transactions. A long time ago, we take for granted it wasn't that simple. And
What were they paying for? Like what was
they
the
were paying,
deliverable?
yeah, the deliverable was the news that they couldn't get anywhere else on the topic. So we were writing articles. We had on Central Eastern Europe that weren't available in other places, and then we were an early what they call scraper service. Now it's indexing, but we would
It
we
sounds
would
less black hat.
right.
Right.
So we would organize headlines from lots of different services, and that essentially, Google News kind of came out of all that. And for a period of time, we could charge subscriptions for that. But then, that ended up evolving. But so we ended up finding that we had the news we had a lot of traffic, and the market started asking to commingle their marketing messages into our content. And that sort of led into the EIN Presswire. So the EIN Presswire kind of found us because it was the market saying, telling us exactly what they wanted. So we pivoted and over to that.
That seems also like a whole different animal building this infrastructure. Can you talk
Mhm.
about maybe the evolution of the team at that point? Like, were there different hires that you had to make when you went to
Yeah,
this?
when we first got started, it was nobody knew what they were doing at all, because essentially nobody you couldn't there weren't web engineers who working with a lot of database and the tools to make websites. So in the early days, it was just a whole bunch of young recent college graduates finding their way to Prague, looking for something interesting to do. And now, then it evolved into some of these people going off to, over time to have career successes in other ways. We had our chief operating officer, Peter Staniak, went and started the first Czech online travel service, for example. Our first editorial director went off and found himself in the Prague city government. And then one of our engineers went off to work with a much larger company. And the core leadership team that I have right now are actually people who worked with us at some point over 30 years, then came back. So
It's a high compliment.
yeah, we've been able to actually keep relationships with people, and have valuable opportunities to work together at different stages in their career. And so now, as we've gotten much larger, everybody's matured in a way. But at the core of all this is still sort of a constant flow of young people coming and working working their way through building some skills. And in fact, we've really never hired any outside or like senior level management. We've always built from within.
So I want to talk about EIN Presswire. So it sounds like you're listening to customers. They're saying, hey, we want to kind of mix our marketing with our messaging, and
Hmm.
EIN Presswire was born.
Hmm.
Can you talk about how you came up with the the pricing model at that
Hmm.
point?
The pricing model, we're a easy to use pay as you go self-serve model, and we were competing against free and really, really expensive. And so, PR Newswire, really, really expensive. Some other unnamed sites are, free, and they can get you into trouble in various different ways. You're commingling with a whole bunch of, less quality content. So we came in with a market disrupting price point, but with an ability to actually build a self-serve pay-as-you-go low-touch platform. So we've never had, in fact, we don't have a sales department. We have we do some online marketing, some Google advertising and so forth. But this is word of mouth, and it's return clients, and it's low touch. But these price points are well below what are the larger players. So we're kind of in a sweet spot. The pricing works. And in fact, one of the challenges we have is a lot of our clients are wondering why the price is so cheap.
How do you answer that?
It's difficult. We tell our clients that, we get them 90% of where they need to go for 10% the cost, but also our larger legacy competitors have a lot of bloat. They've got they've got older, they've just got, maybe not as many now have a lot of office space, but they have more traditional legacy, I think, cultures that require more expensive salespeople, more expensive office space. They're doing some things. We stay focused just on this one low touch, low cost service, and it's really worked well for us. So we've been actually growing our sales for EIN Presswire grow at about 20 to 40% per year consistently. And in fact, we're not backed by any private equity. We're just essentially, this is still founder capital that was 30 years old. So we're just running a self-sustaining, growing business, investing in all the things that we do with the capital that we're generating off the sales of this press wire.
Dave, that's pretty amazing. As we're looking at the page, you can check this out to EIN presswire.com/pricing, and we're on the pricing page. For people who've never sent, I want to dig into, is there something else you did besides word of mouth, like to get people to hear about you over the years that worked?
Well, yeah. Well, we monitor our competitors. We track who's sending press releases. So we try to reach out and say, "Hey, try us." Um, we're using Google advertising. Anybody searching for press release distribution, will see it, links to us that way. And but it's we've done some limited advertising in print in trade publications, but for the most part, we've been able to build this without a substantial sales and marketing department. One of the weaknesses I would say that we have is we've never, in fact, I think a lot of people still don't know who we are. Our clients know who we are. But general market awareness. But that's changing now with the Newsmatics. About 4 years ago, we decided to rebrand from EIN to Newsmatics, and the Newsmatics and the data science and the big data is actually kind of moving us forward even faster now.
Why the rebrand? Because, like, to
Um,
me, honestly, if an EIN is recognizable to me, like,
yes.
so I identify that, and that's been around for many, many years, obviously. Why the rebrand?
Well, on the corporate side, we're rebranding for mostly for the new products, but for the EIN Presswire will always be EIN Presswire. I think what you'll start seeing there is by Newsmatics, as a and all of these products are essentially the same way. They've been driven from the market telling us what they want. The affinity group publishing, because we're sitting on 400 million articles indexed and indexing 100,000 a day or so. Affinity Group Publishing was essentially born by our clients wanting more distribution. So we couldn't find enough distribution, so we made it. So we spun up 3,900 websites. We're populating all of them with news. And there are more data points then that give our clients more distribution points and more access into the large language models and into AI. And on their own, we're building those out as real publications. And we like to think of it as filling news deserts. So this ecosystem that we've been building actually kind of EIN Presswire is an entry point of content originated from us. And then we moderate it very carefully. We don't just run anything. We're actually validating the transparency of the clients that we have. We don't research all the content, but our feeling is if we can trust the client, we can trust the content. We do take content down if there's ever complaints, but we're really very careful with it. So, and that creates sort of a value chain of vetted content feeding into not only other people's websites or downstream distribution partners, but onto our own publications.
I'm curious, David, what are some of the benefits for a press release maybe that people don't realize? Because to me, there's like obvious things you can get across these 22 platforms, which is good
Yeah.
for search engines, it's good for the language learning models, it's good for authority and credibility, getting on USA Today or CBS or wherever. So what are some of the maybe benefits people don't realize till after they do one of these?
Well, there's a perception that press releases are old-fashioned, and that you might not need to. You might only need to run a press release once, but it should be standard toolbox for any marketer. Essentially, you get to you write your own message. You get to control the narrative, and we do have clients that will be contacted by journalists. A lot of press releases don't rise to the journalists aren't going to write a story on it. And there's this balance between, expectation and reality. And the reality is that if you're not issuing content, you're invisible, and you need to push it out. And you can't just put the content on your own website. Using services like ours, we are a Google News publisher. We do have high domain authority. We do have journalists that are monitoring our press wires. And so when a very interesting press release does show up, it does get traction. And so, whether you're a self-published author and you want to show up in Google News, or you want to say show the logos of your distribution on network branded sites because it's part of your marketing, or whether you're interested in another pathway to get into ChatGPT, you need to run content through services like ours.
So, David, I could see kind of the trajectory where the customers are asking for this. You create this, company service, EIN Presswire. What was the next? And I could see how Newsmatics is kind of a rebrand because you have these umbrella companies. What was next after EIN Presswire as far as the offerings go? Because I know you have Perspectify, you have Affinity Group Publishing. What was next?
Yeah, the Affinity Group Publishing was born from needing more distribution. So we were able to provide this. And so with Affinity Group Publishing, we not only do we have our own press releases, but we're indexing tens of thousands of other news services, and so we're building a comprehensive news index similar to Google News. And then we link to the original articles. So Affinity Group Publishing is a mixture of all the press releases we're originating, but also links to news from thousands of different publishers. So the globe that you were just spinning, you could spin, pick any country, pick any state, and drill in. And it's like, for example, if you click on 50 states today, over there, what you have here is news for the U.S., and the color coding that you're seeing there allows. So we have media researchers that catalog different publishers based on political biases, either maybe left or right, or their government institutions,
This is great. This is hilarious.
or just propaganda. And what you can do here is you can actually use those filters, and if you want some government propaganda to go away, you just deselect it and apply. So we're not sort of censoring people's ability to see what's available. What we're doing is we're giving control to the user so that they can select what they might be interested in. So
it's also an awareness thing, it seems like, too, because some people may not even realize
media literacy.
Behind what's what's going on. So it's it's a categorization. It's like, okay, well, when I'm reading this, I should be aware of here's what maybe behind the scenes was happening.
Yeah, if you want to just read government propaganda, this is your place. You just selected government propaganda, so you're good.
I was just curious. Yeah, exactly. Right.
So here we have all the world's news all organized into our sandbox, so to speak, and we're feeding them out on these 3,900 sites. It's a total map of the whole world with 10 or 12 publications for every state and country and continent. And I think it provides us with more distribution for our press release clients, but it also allows the user to regulate the content that they want to consume.
So why create this? Tell me about it.
We created it for distribution.
Because it's completely free, right,
it's
for
free.
people. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, it
seems like a lot of work to put this together. Well,
actually, it was, but now it's just a software application that it's actually very easy for us to manage. It lives forever, 24 hours a day, taking content from all the hard work that we did was setting up the scanning and indexing infrastructure, and then feeding press releases, and people don't pay for publications anymore, really. Once you lock it, you narrow your scope. And for us, you see that there's a lot of our own ads on here. So this serves as a platform for us to promote our other ancillary services, but also as a point for all of our press releases. Now, the door is open for a lot of other ways to monetize those AGPs. So we're very excited about some of the things that we will be able to do with those going forward.
Can you talk about partnerships? I know, like, even when you started EIN Presswire, you have to. What are those conversations like, so you can actually build the network over time?
Well, we're very unusual in that we've actually gone through 30 years or so without a lot of partnerships. We've built all the software that we use. We're using the typical tools that a lot of people use, Slack, for example, or Google Meet and so forth. But almost everything that we use, we've built, and we've had this opportunity to have a network of software developers, who've worked with us, and it's easier to build than to buy for us, and we're not locked into. Most companies don't have that choice. They don't have the expertise to be able to write their own code to manage certain things and so forth. But we've been able to do that. So everything that we have, and then we do a lot with. Younger people, as I was mentioning. We're an industrial partner with Masaryk University and the Czech Republic, so we get this flow of young data science people, coming through that are kind of working with us. And in fact, in middle of next month, we're having our second annual hackathon in Brno in the Czech Republic, where these teams come and then they take our data and then they inspire us with their brilliant ideas on how it can be applied to real world situations. So and from that, it leads to a hiring opportunity for us and an educational opportunity for them.
I love that idea. The hackathon. At what point
Yeah.
did you start to introduce that? Is there how do you attract people to that? Is just like the advantages, oh, maybe you'll get hired on? Is there, I've seen people do some kind of
Mhm.
reward, or I don't know. How do
Well,
you run the hackathon?
well, the winning team gets €1,000 grand prize, and then we have second and third place prizes. But the students want to code, and they're excited about working on things, and we're giving this kind of mission, social driven goal of, if you've got all this news and you got all this metadata and all these labels, what can you do with it? And
So
so it's
24 hours, you set it up like, what can you do
yeah.
with this data? What should we do? Go.
Yeah,
And then
that's it.
they
But
just
more
work.
or less, we give we give some general guidelines. We give access to our news index through an API, and we there are some instructions on how it's all how to get started. But essentially, they go in at 6 o'clock one evening, and by 8 o'clock they're coding, and then they're staying up all night long, and then about 4 o'clock on the following afternoon, they're putting their proposals and their presentations together, and then we've got a team of judges to watch it. But last year we were oversubscribed. There are too many teams of people wanting to do this, and so this year we're going to do it again, and it's always a lot of fun.
It's fascinating. When you look back over the years, what innovations or what sticks out to you has come out of one of those hackathons, right? Because you always hear,
Mhm.
with Google, they, have whatever, 25% of their time they can work on other things,
Mhm.
and things like Gmail's come out of that and other
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious what sticks out to you that's come out of one of the hackathons. It could just be an idea that maybe it wasn't solidified and just
Mhm.
helped the
Well,
company.
the newest product that we'll be introducing in the first quarter of 2026 is our Newsmatics Data Studio, and the modules within that were quite often inspired by some of the ideas. One of the teams last year took the news data, parsed it with U.S. election data, and set up a predictive model to say who was going to win an election. Right. And those are really good ideas. And it's just young people coming in with an interesting idea on how you can apply news data to different real world situations. And then we can also take a press release, for example, use an AI model to convert any press release um, into an AP style article, for example. You could take that AP style article and convert it into Spanish language or German or anything else. And so all these tools are available. And the ideas, really the inspiration is with the young people coming in and saying, okay, we got these tools. What can we do with it? So it's led to creating an AI model to help us make decisions for our Google advertising. So essentially, our AI is kind of thinking through the AI that's used in, other AI models to help us, manage it. So, some of the data sets and challenges are so big, the only thing you can do is set up one AI model to work with another AI model to try to optimize, what you're trying to accomplish.
It's so interesting because there's so much you could do with data. And so
Yeah.
it's really
Uh-huh.
infinite.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what happens in the next hackathon. At what
Mhm.
point, Dave, does Perspectify come about?
Well, Perspectify, these are actually all kind of toys, right? So we get to the fun thing about Newsmatics is that we just keep innovating. We don't stop. So if we've got a news index and we have metadata, then we want to put that out there in some form. And so we want to create the search engine and we want to present it. So each one of these ideas is a step to another idea, and every door that you open opens up a whole nother series of doors. And so this is simply just a way to compare and framing of any news event from left or right to government propaganda. So you can click on any of these topics, like Alex Preddy, for example, and you can see how left, within columns, how to compare how left media might be covering a story and how right-wing media might be covering it. And so what this does is it just generally surfaces media awareness. And so right now, it's a free public service. We have it out here. We're seeing how people relate to it. We're collecting feedback off of it. But I would hope that this, really leverages as a tool for media educators and generally media awareness. One of the things you can do is if you scroll to the top and you turn off the labels, there's a little button there that says labels off. Now scroll down. And this is the way that people see the news now. They just see Fox News or the Independent, and they don't know, and they just say, oh, it's an article. But what we're doing, and then turn it back on, and then what we're showing here is who owns it and whether there's a political orientation to it. And
Totally.
I think a lot of people would be really surprised.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is really interesting from like a political advertising perspective. They should probably go to your site and see how are the headlines, what are the difference of the headlines from, when you turn the labels on, right?
Or you don't want to, if you're a politician, you don't want to quote from a government Chinese propaganda source. So, right?
Right.
You got to be careful where you take the content that you're citing. And so these types of tools, it wasn't that long ago that, well, it's been a while now, but product labeling on consumer packaging and grocery stores and so forth.
Totally.
So, we're here, we're not trying to say that something's bad for you. We're 50% healthy. What we're doing is that here's a little information so that you have it available to you. And I do think that, the concerns now globally over, where information's coming from is such that in itself is a forward-leading new opportunity for us. So just having this is, and a lot of the younger people working for us, they probably wouldn't work for us if we weren't doing interesting things like this. They just like projects like this.
This is fascinating. Everyone should check out Perspectify.com to play around with it and go on there. I want to hear if innovation, you mentioned innovation. I think all companies are always thinking about, not all companies, but a lot of companies are thinking about innovation. Like what's next, especially with, AI is hot right now. And there's always something that's top of mind and people want to stay ahead of the curve. I'm curious if you have a process or how you have certain meetings about talking about innovation. Before we talk about that, though, you mentioned product labeling. I think that's, David, a genius idea. I'm not sure, I know the companies will put, whatever, GMP certified, or they'll put organic or whatever. Yeah. And every one of those companies pays a yearly, I don't know what it is, yearly subscription to make that on their label.
Yeah.
I'm curious if all sites should have your label.
Well,
like this is,
I would hope so.
This is, labeled and now it has the labels on there, right? This is certified by blank, and then people can actually turn on and off the labels. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah. Those are the types of things that come, in the forefront of all of our thinking as we're, and all of these are iterative.
You're like the product labeling of the internet for where's the news source coming from.
Yeah, it's product labeling for your mind, right? Is what we're calling it.
Newsmatics certified.
Yeah, that's right. Like Underwriter.
They got to pay for, totally.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, hopefully, when we talk in a couple of years, you're like, yeah, we made
Mhm.
another $1 billion. Also, more importantly, just made people aware
Yeah.
and there was more transparency, you
Well,
know?
we'd like to think that what we're doing actually has that ability to change the way that people are kind of relating to the news they're consuming now. And I think that there's that's good business. I think that there's such chaos and such a low, the people are just angry at the media. They don't trust it anymore. And I think these types of tools could bring more trust, I think, back.
100%. Yeah. So people check out Perspectify.com, play around with it.
Hmm.
Innovation.
Hmm.
Talk a little about innovation. Do you have a process for
Hmm.
that? Or are there certain meetings throughout the week or month that
Uh-huh.
allow you to, get that collective knowledge from the
Uh-huh.
team?
Well, it's in our DNA. We're everything we do is new product development. Every day is a new day where we're exploring a new idea. Like, for example, now with the new data studio that we're building, we're building a new Newsmatics applications managers for that. So we need to not just build an application, but all the tools around it to manage the application. And so everybody in our company is in a meeting with me at least once a week. So there's really nobody in the company that doesn't have an opportunity to be in a discussion, whether that's a weekly customer service meeting where we're talking about what's working, what's not working, what needs to be done to the advertising meeting where we're talking about metrics and how to measure and what AI could be used for that. So there's a lot of crossover with say a Ruby developer and a data scientist with customer service staff. All we're not siloed. So innovation happens really with everything that we do all day long.
David, first of all, I have one last question. Before I ask it, I just want to thank you. Thanks for sharing the journey and stories. This has been really valuable. Everyone can check out newsmatics.com. All of the sites live there that you can click on. The Affinity Group
Hmm.
Publishing we talked about, EIN, Presswire, Perspectify, and then whatever else they have to come in the future. So check that out. Last question, David, is just I'm curious, what are some of your favorite resources that
Hmm.
you've used or consumed? It could be books, it could be apps, it could be software, it could be
Hmm.
tools. What resources have been, influential and important to you over the years?
Oh, that's a really good question. The last couple of years, I I've had to spend more time learning about AI, of course, and there was a book. I wish I had it here. It's AI for executives. Let's
Is
see
that the
which
one with
one.
Jeff Woods?
Yeah, I think that
AI for
was.
leaders?
Yeah, that.
It's
That's.
AI driven leader?
Let's see,
Or
what
no?
was it? I don't have it. I don't want to get up and walk and go to my
I'll
bookshelf,
pull it up on
but
my screen. You'll tell me if
but
this is the
but
right one. Yeah.
I've been reading. I've been inspired now by reading what I can about executives needing to what they
It,
need to know about
is this the
AI.
one right here?
No,
No, that's not it. Okay.
that's not the one.
Okay.
I'll send you a link after this. Okay.
Okay.
Um, but there's a few about AI and what you need to know, and the all companies need to be AI driven, and it has to start at all levels and sort of everything. And and then also, being able to just use ChatGPT as a resource for discovering. You can just ask, ChatGPT, what should David Rothstein, the CEO of Newsmatics, know about, AI to, manage a company in the modern era using AI. You're just going to get
It's so
brilliant
meta.
stuff coming back.
Asking AI and how I should use the AI.
You're going to get
Right.
brilliant stuff back. I mean, there's just it's allowed us to feel like we've got teams of experts, working with us now. So there's a real renaissance going on when it comes to. Of course, you need to sort through the hallucinations and all that. You still need to know your stuff to understand what's not real or what it might be wrong. But anyway, I'm kind of inspired every day by all the things that are happening.
I love it. David, I want to be the first one to thank you. Everyone check out newsmatics.com and the other sites and more episodes of the podcast. And we'll see everyone next time. David, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a nice day.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like $100 grand.